Good evening. I'd like to call this February 11th, 2026 meeting, the Acton Select Board, to order. We have an executive session, which we're going to start with, to discuss Purpose 6, discuss the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property located at 46 Taylor Road. I will entertain a motion. We expect that the executive session will last about a half hour, and then our plan is to open it back up to a public meeting, public hearing at 7:30. So I know we've got some staff here, we've got council, others. I ask your indulgence to go find some place to find a cup of coffee for a half hour. I'll entertain a motion to enter executive session to A, consider the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property at 46 Taylor Road under Purpose 6.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Before the roll call vote to enter executive session, let me declare that in the executive session, the board will discuss or consider the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property at 46 Taylor Road under Purpose 6, as an open session may have a detrimental effect on the litigating position of the public body. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Charter?
Aye.
Ms. Nichol?
Aye.
And I also say aye. So we're unanimous for those present.
Okay, so there are a couple.
I got to do this. Get in trouble with counsel. At the conclusion of the executive session, the board will reconvene in open session. Now, John.
Sorry, I just wanted to mention there are a couple folks in the virtual audience that we'd asked if you could come back at 7:30. The meeting will be back on then, but because it's executive session, we need to have the virtual room cleared out. So if you could please step out and then come back in about a half hour at 7:30. One more.
John or Catherine Berry, we need you to disconnect. If we have to force you off, you won't be able to reconnect.
Okay, Mr. Angirotti.
Thank you. David's going to lock the webinar. We're locked. Doors closed. Executive session time. I'm going to stop using the mic. Is that all right?
For the recording, you need to use the mic. Are we recording the executive session?
I don't know. I don't think we usually do. Okay.
David.
So I asked this afternoon about any environmental testing, some of which I think can't be done while there's snow on the ground. And especially since Thank you for that. My
Good evening. All right, power. Good evening. Thanks for coming out. We are now, the select board is now in open session. We have one item of business we're going to discuss. It's a public hearing considering the right of first completed an executive session, discussed a few legal issues. Well, my intent tonight is we really want to hear from the community. First off, are folks in favor of purchasing the land? Secondly, do you have any idea? I mean, the right of first refusal would be for $1.4 million. Do you think, and we can't negotiate that price. So are you in favor of purchasing the land? Would you support it at town meeting? If we purchase the land, we are going to need a 2/3 vote at town meeting. So and 2/3 votes are not easy to get. So we would certainly need folks to show up at a subsequent town meeting. And importantly, what we really want to hear is what your visions of the use of the property would be. Certainly it's adjacent to the Arboretum, but there could be other purposes, and then we should also think about the intensity of the use of the property going forward. So we'd like to open it up. It's going to be pretty much a listening session. Our intent is that we will discuss this as the entire select board. As you can see, there's only 3 of us here tonight. The entire select board will meet and discuss this again at our regularly scheduled meeting on March 2nd. We do have a meeting this coming Monday night, but we won't really have any more, or not this coming Monday night, a week from Monday. But we won't have a lot of new information by then, so we're pushing it off until March 2nd. For folks that want to make comments, and I encourage you to do so, please come up, use the mic so it can be recorded, and for those of us that have poor hearing can understand you. We're going to, because we've got such a large crowd here, we're going to use a 3-minute rule, other than some town staff that might have to speak longer, but for the general public, if you can keep your remarks down to 3 minutes, the clerk is going to be taking care of that. Give you a 2-minute yellow warning and a 3-minute warning with a red sticker. Elizabeth.
Mr. Chair, I'm just wondering if we might put up a diagram of the parcel so that everybody's really clear about which parcel we're discussing tonight, because we have received some correspondence that seems confused about whether or not there's a structure on the property.
If we've got access to that, that would be a great idea. Get everybody centered on it.
I don't know that it's in the packet. It is, maybe David has it.
I thought it was in the packet. If it's not available, I will rescind my suggestion.
I have a map of it right here.
I can display a survey of the land.
Okay, we'll try to put that together so folks can look at it as well. So, without any further ado, we don't have a lot to say right now. This is the beginning of a long process. Ideally, we could bring this thing to town meeting in May, but there's some specific statutory time limits that we have to abide by. So we're going to work those out, and it's sort of all the technicalities that we were dealing with a few minutes ago during the executive session. So we really want to hear what you have to say. First up.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for having the meeting tonight and not doing it during winter break week. Appreciate that. So thank you guys for listening to us. Thank you everyone for
Your
coming.
name and
Oh,
street
Renee,
address?
26 Taylor. So I'm here tonight to support the acquisition and preservation of 46 Taylor and expand the Arboretum. We asked our children what they love about the Arboretum, and they drew a whole bunch of drawings that I submitted electronically. Hopefully you saw that. I have hard copies if you want to look at more detail. But our children is my theme for tonight, and preserving this land for the future generations. The Acton Arboretum is a beloved gem, not only for our town, but the region. We are fortunate enough to live next door, and so we see all the activity through the seasons. Daily, folks from the neighborhood walk to the Arboretum with their kids, their dogs, or just by themselves for a bit of exercise and relaxation. On warm days, the Arboretum fills up with folks from everywhere, Stowe, Littleton, Springfield, and beyond. I know this because I ask them, especially if they have little kids. I'm like, oh, where are you guys from? You know, looking for play dates. It's a great socializing spot. News of our beautiful lands reaches far and wide. Right now, the cross-country skiers and sledders are taking advantage of the snow. In the fall, you'll see senior photos, wedding photos, photos galore, family photos. Everybody loves the spot. They know they're taking advantage of the natural beauty. Everyone knows that the Arboretum is the place to be to have a picnic or an outdoor meeting. We bought our house next to the Arboretum because we value nature and open spaces. Purchasing 46 Taylor would add tremendous value to the Arboretum for our town and for generations to come. In terms of use for the land, I think that preserving it the way that it is, maybe extending the trails, I haven't thought too much about that, but just keeping it, you know, as my daughter wrote in one of the papers, keep it as it is for the nature, for the natural habitat, for the animals. I will let everyone else have a chance to speak. Thank you again.
I've never seen the coercive technique before of sending child's artwork to us. We got that from multiple people, so that's the first time for me on the board.
Hi, Phoebe Conant, Nagog Hill Road. I'm actually here, I'm currently the president of the Friends of the Acton Arboretum, which, for those of you listening at home, the Arboretum is town-owned property. It is conservation land. It's a very unique conservation property in that it is dedicated to the growing of trees, and we have specimen gardens there. The Friends of the Arboretum was created to support the town for the special needs of this parcel. And we have already submitted a letter to the selectmen and various boards saying that we are strongly in favor of acquiring this parcel. This is something we've thought about for a long time. In fact, Mary Donald, who is the owner of the property, was a longtime board member here, and she and her family actually gave 12 acres of back property back in the day. So we've always loved this property and the idea that it could someday be part of the Arboretum. This is going to be the 40th anniversary of the Arboretum. It was in 1986 that my father and John Whittier proposed that that land be turned into an arboretum, and it has grown into something, you know, as we've heard, that not only people in town love, but people come from other places to enjoy. I think it is a special property. We've done a lot in recent years to develop accessibility. Unlike a lot of our conservation properties, which are lovely wooded parcels, you know, there are trails here that people with mobility issues can enjoy. And so I think it is a really important part of the conservation lands here in Acton. Our job as the Friends of the Arboretum is to support the Arboretum. And I particularly wanted to stand up here and just say that should the town agree to go forward to try to acquire this property, that we would be dedicating all of our efforts to helping create awareness, raise money toward that effort. And in terms of how the property might be used, there are other people from the board here who can speak about how we might incorporate it into the Arboretum. But just as a general statement, we wanted to say we are in favor, and thank you for considering it.
Thank you.
Hello, Bettina Abe, School Street. I've worked for the town for 12 years in the Conservation Division and serve on the Open Space Committee. And this parcel has long been very high on the list for protection because it borders the Arboretum. And Mary Donald always took great pride in having her land publicly accessible. If folks in this audience are not too sure what we're looking at there, you can see 3 parcels. Taylor Road is the lowest line there, and you have 1 parcel on the left, and then you have sort of a big T-shaped parcel in the middle, and then another little one on the right. And where Ms. Cook was pointing out is the 5.8 acre parcel. That has no structures on it at this time, and it's very beautiful. It's open space. It has a lot of wetlands, and Tom Tidman has long been imploring me to implore Mary to please sell it to the town. And Tom's vision and the rest of us, I think, would concur that, and the public survey showed that some people feel there could be a little bit more parking that would help at the main parking lot at certain busy times of year. So we wouldn't want a large parking lot by any means, but we think right adjacent to Taylor Road, you could possibly have definitely at least 1 handicap accessible parking spot, perhaps van size, and then maybe, 4 or 5 additional regular parking spots up close there, and it could be planted with native street trees to provide shade over the parking lot. And then we would like to have from there a ADA accessible trail that would head north. And then up in the sort of north corner at the top of the map there, there's a connection to the Arboretum's wildflower trail. And so we would want to hook it in there to make sure that folks with any disabilities could access the whole rest of the wildflower loop. The rest of the parcel in the interior, it has a lot of shrubs, and it would be a perfect example to restore with native plantings. And so mostly it would be for wildlife value and peace and tranquility of the Arboretum. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bettina, can I just ask a question? Is there any trail that's currently part of the Arboretum that cuts over any portion of this parcel? I've heard reference to the, okay.
You have to speak in a microphone.
That's all I wanted to know, because some of the correspondence was confusing to me.
Yep. Mary always just verbally allowed the public to walk on this little corner right here. But that is on private property. But she just gave verbal permission for folks to be able to access. This is the Arboretum property on this side. And then this is Arboretum property up there as well.
So there is a trail that people follow across that top corner?
Yep.
Currently, it's just not officially part of the Arboretum?
It is not.
Thank
That is
you.
correct. It's private.
Hi, I'm Lauren Feld. I'm new to Acton, so I'm at 46 Taylor Road, and we moved here about 1.5 years ago. And so I know that many of us talk about, how, and I'm sure it's widely felt how important the Arboretum is to the town, how much people love nature, and like the fact that it brings so many other people into the town, and it's a big attraction. The main downside to purchasing, to me, it seems just how can we justify the cost? But I can say as someone who very recently was in a very extensive home search and looking at what sort of what we thought brought value and where we wanted to live, this was the main selling point. I remember after we toured the house at the open house, walking to the Arboretum and walking the trails of the Arboretum. I think it's really, when we're thinking of sort of how do we justify the cost in addition to the importance of nature and sort of how important it is to all the people who came out today, if we think of things that support town property values and that bring people from outside in, this was a real highlight of moving there. So I just wanted to add a perspective of sort of a person who recently has finished their home search and how important it was to have this sort of natural beauty and drawing us into the town. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jason Thrower, 30 Taylor Road. I live right in that little corner of the small text right there. You just brought up something, Bettina, that got me thinking about handicap accessibility. Also, with all the small children and strollers, that's another part of the Arboretum that's really accessible, where the rest of it really truly isn't, except the baby backpack. If I sleep in my bed, I walk the Arboretum every single day. I was thinking also about the drawings, the children's drawings. I have probably, I don't know, over 100 photos of the wildlife that lives right there, because my backyard is right there. I mean, I've seen it with my own eyes on multiple occasions. The deer, of course, owls, fox, fisher cat, you name it. If it's in this region of Massachusetts, it lives out there. So there's no way that wouldn't be impacted with construction in that area, plus the wetland that flows through. So. Of course, I have a special bias being directly adjacent to what's going to happen here, but of course, I support all efforts to conserve as much as possible, and that's it.
Thank you.
Sorry, hi, I'm Alicia Palacci. I'm at 62 Taylor Road, so on the opposite side of the Donald property from where Jason lives. We moved here in the summer of 2020. We were lucky enough to be able to find a house and have an offer accepted during the chaos of the pandemic. We had a 9-month-old at the time. And since then, we have another one. And I'm sorry, we have spent so much time in this property. We see the deer that come into our property, so our kids have first access to all of the nature that's around here. For similar reasons to other people, we were drawn here by the property, by having a forest in our backyard. And this is something that my husband, well, not so much my husband, I grew up with in central Wisconsin. So to be able to show that to my children has been amazing. And also, just post-pandemic, we've lost third spaces. We don't have places to bring our children anymore, and this is somewhere that they can go. And right now I have a kindergartner and a pre-K. I'm hoping that over the next, 20 years, whatever, they're able to use this property as well to build out their communities and to take advantage of the neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do I push this? Oh, okay. Hi, my name is Kate Dupre, and I live at 64 Wood Lane, just one lot away from the Arboretum. I moved here with my family over 10 years ago from Framingham, in large part, like many of the folks who have spoken, because the house was right next to the Arboretum. It's truly a magical place, this little corner of suburbia where you can just enter the forest or the orchard and walk on these amazing paths and be completely immersed in nature within minutes. I too grew up in a rural area in New Hampshire, and this was a way that I could bring my kids into nature. Our kids were 9 and 6 at the time when we moved here, and there was a month of summer left before school started. We spent every single day that August walking in the Arboretum. They found frogs and streams, ferns and blueberries, watched chipmunks and squirrels, and crawled on big rocks. It helped them settle into our new home in a quiet and really meaningful way. The kids are older now. My son's in college, and my daughter's a junior in high school. But she's interested in studying environmental science and conservation. And I think, in part, because of this relationship we have with the Arboretum. These days, we walk our dog Pepper once or twice a day in the Arboretum, and it's hard to express how much this feels like a gift. We've met so many friends there, local folks who do the same thing, go on daily walks or take breaks from work. get exercise, feed and watch the birds, fix the pathways, watch the flowers bloom throughout the season and the leaves fall in the fall. And I think that one of the surprising things for me, and it's amazing how everyone's touching on this, has been how many folks that we meet who are coming to Acton in order to visit the Arboretum because it's actually a destination for them, not just a walk outside of their house. And that makes sense, of course, because it's accessible, again, like many people have said, to so many different people in strollers or in wheelchairs. And this allows you to view animals and plants in the streams and both planned and unplanned natural spaces. And I think that's really important. My daughter would be embarrassed that I can't list all of the birds, she's a birder now, that we have seen and heard there, but I can tell you about a few. Bluebirds, the pileated woodpeckers, and the owls. We've seen and heard so much other wildlife, foxes, stoats, coyotes, and so many deer, rabbits, and even a fisher cat, which is quite scary. One of my favorite places in the Arboretum is actually on the lot, and that is for sale. It's this path at the corner of that private piece of land where there's a sign that welcomes visitors, but it says you're crossing into private land. It's this magical place nestled a bit behind Taylor Road and Minot Avenue, where you walk through a bunch of low, thick bushes, and suddenly you emerge into this wide pine grove, where all the sounds are different, but it feels so incredibly peaceful. There's an active stream here that has the first skunk cabbage of the season. The skunk cabbage is this really weird plant that uses chemical heat to bust up through ice. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Sarah Parker. I'm at 11 Taylor. I have the great joy of living right across from the driveway to the Arboretum parking lot. So I get to see a lot of people coming and going from the Arboretum every day. And, you know, like everyone else, I see all kinds of people there. And I see my neighbors every day. We're there at least 3 times a day between my kids and my dog. And I see people who've never been to Acton before. I see friends who live in other suburbs who don't realize I live there until we run into each other at the Arboretum. Everyone, when I told them I was moving to Acton just before the pandemic, really the first comment they would all give me is, "Oh, have you been to the Arboretum there?" In fact, one of my team members at work got married in the Arboretum without knowing it was across the street from my house. You know, it's really a place where I think our community comes together as a local community, but also reaches out into the broader community. And one of the things I particularly love, which Kate also just touched on, is, you know, not only does it allow me to meet all my neighbors, in fact, I've met most of the people in this room by running into them at the Arboretum and saying hello, because I've seen them several times and learning that they're a part of our local community and becoming part of it myself. But also, you know, I really think it's important that the Arboretum is for everyone. There are parts of it that are these beautifully manicured and cared for spaces that are very friendly to children and where you can go and have a picnic. And there are other spaces that are very friendly for people who want to get away from the children and have a little bit of solitude on a back trail. Or, you know, people who want to go walk their dog, and maybe their dog, like my dog, doesn't like children, but there's a place for us there. And there's a place for me whether I'm there with my kids or whether I'm there with my dog or whether I just need a minute and I'm going for a walk. And, you know, I think this particular parcel is something that is unique at the Arboretum because it's one of the less touched spaces there. And there's a lot of wildlife. You know, there are areas that, you know, I'm not an expert, I don't know if they're technically wetlands, but they feel like wetlands. You know, where you walk into the pine grove and you smell the pine needles and you know that you're in a special place. And I agree that it's also one of my favorite spots. And it's a spot where my kids call it the backwoods. And I love that they are getting to experience the outdoors in different ways. So, you know, I would feel like this is a really valuable addition to our Arboretum, and I support it. And I honestly, everyone I know in our community values and loves this land and would love to support it becoming, part of the Arboretum officially.
Thank you.
My name is Sally Bond, and I live at 427 Main Street, which is right next to the Arboretum sign on Main Street. I have lived there since before the Arboretum was the Arboretum, and was an early president of the Friends of the Acton Arboretum. I have watched that property grow over the years, not physically, and I think this is such a blessing that we now have the opportunity to add to it a little bit and make it grow a little more. That corner that is part of one of the plots that has a house on it, that Mary has for years let people walk through, is a beautiful space, a particularly nice space, because as people have mentioned, it takes you into the pine woods. That would be very sad to lose that stretch there, even though it's not a huge part of the Arboretum. That whole back area there is one of my favorite parts of the Arboretum. In the spring, it is one of the noisiest places in Acton with the tree frogs and the peepers. And watching it change through the season is absolutely terrific. Of course, not most of that would be lost if this was not acquired, but a way into it and a way to get there to enjoy it would be. There have been dozens, if not hundreds, of volunteers who have worked in that space. I think they could probably do some wonderful things in there. Some of them Bettina talked about, without enlarging parking too much, without changing too much. I think some paths could be made, or a path in, for more accessibility. And I think that would be great. And I hope this goes to town meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Scott Sullivan, 8 Patriots Road. I'm kind of acting as the head for this question, but as the chair of the Acton Finance Committee. I have a lot of positives about this property. I was hopeful to hear, coming to this meeting, ways of supporting this from the perspective of if this was not done and something else was done with this property, what were the things that could be done with it so that we have like a full understanding of the scenario that's in front of us. Whether the select board or someone in the audience understands that in a better detail than I do, if they could just maybe high level summary, if this is not done and another purpose is done there, what does that look like? Thank you.
I think, just as a point of general information, I think that kind of discussion with a lot more detail would be what I'm contemplating for that meeting, select board meeting on March 2nd. We'll have a chance to delve into this a little more deeply, but good points, thank you. Anyone else?
I'm Kathy Hatfield from 30 Mohawk Drive, and I've been involved with the Friends of the Acton Arboretum for a very long time. I am among the cadre of past presidents, having held the role for about 19 years. I talked to Tom today on another project, and he reminded me that there are many people in this room who have been involved with the Arboretum, among them the chairman of the board. You know, Dean, you go way back, and we appreciate the effort that you took in the late 80s to get things going. And 1986 is when the motion passed at town meeting. And this year in 2026, the Friends plan to celebrate the 40th anniversary of the Arboretum. I can think of no better reason to celebrate, to have as a part of the celebration, the fact that on the 40th anniversary, we hopefully would be able to say that this parcel could be added to the Arboretum. There are currently 7 parcels that make up the Arboretum. 8 is a good number for this, you know? I can't begin to tell you how many people have worked to help this make this the place that everyone enjoys so much. And, you know, the Friends as an organization are there to help support the town, to provide backup and support for the town staff at times when things are tight. And given the way, you know, this town runs so smoothly, it's always tight for getting stuff done. So there's a large cadre of volunteers. A few extra parking spaces might be really helpful on some of those busy days, because we've had to park in Sally Bond's yard in order to be able to, you know, do some serious projects sometime. But other than that, when we just had a public survey in preparation for the strategic plan, to support the strategic plan we're developing. And it was surprising to us that as many people who enjoy the lawn area, there are also as many respondents who enjoyed walking the trails in the woods and appreciating nature and bringing their children to see all the different areas that require a little longer hike. And I think having some different habitats to explore would be really good. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name's Terry Maitland, 100 Martin Street, and I chair the Conservation Commission, although we did not take a vote of endorsement since we didn't have the information yet. Open Space people are here also from the Open Space Committee. I think this is a very important piece to acquire. Not only, you know, would it add to the Arboretum, but you've heard all this discussion about how important it is from a wildlife standpoint, a recreational standpoint, and so forth. It's also big, relatively. I took a 4-year-old out there and it got lost. So a little embarrassing, but hey, this is good. It's another thing too, during the discussions of the open space and recreation plan, it was noted that the conservation lands that are available happen to be kind of at the edges of town, more or less. And it was said, you know, could experience more diversity if people could get to the center of town. So I think it's important to have that as an anchor piece in the middle of town. And to let it go would, I think, be tragic. So please do all you can to bring it home. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Bob Bettinson. I live at 45 Taylor Road, so that's pretty close. It's nice to see Dean Charter again. I haven't seen you in a long time, but been in town for 33 years, watched all the activities and schools and libraries and police stations and fire departments and all the other things that we've done along the way. This is a wonderful area. It's a wonderful spot, and it would be awfully nice to keep this land from being developed into multifamily units or a large development of houses together, which are just going to put more children in the schools and maybe challenge the budget. I don't know, you know. Be very happy to see it stay somewhat undeveloped. That would be great. But it's up to everybody else to decide if they want to put all that money into it. But I'd be up for having that saved forever. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Ben Hurwitz, Minot Ave. I don't have 3 minutes worth of stuff to say, but you know, my wife and I did come to support the town acquiring the land, so wanted to let you know how we feel. Also, for myself personally, while expanding the Arboretum certainly would be, I guess, the most logical and obviously a good use of the land, somewhat as the last speaker was saying. You know, there are other good uses of the land that the town could make, that I think I would trust the town's decision, should we make this purchase. And I kind of think for everyone here, if this is only, the only argument is like expand the Arboretum, that's it, maybe it's harder to get to, you know, 2/3 of the town voting for that at town meeting. So something to think about.
Thank you.
Brewster Cohen Jr., Main Street. Just a kind of question for you folks. Would this be paid for, or is it a mechanism to do it by the CPP funds? Or does it have to be a separate item out of the main budget?
So there, obviously, there is an open space set-aside fund that has been generated from CPC funds. Every year, the Open Space Committee comes in and asks for additional money to be put into that. That's being discussed right now with the Community Preservation Committee. There'll certainly be some more money put into that open space. Exactly how much, that's yet to be determined, but I think it's obvious to me that that's the place where we would go to get the majority of the funds. There are some legal technicalities about how much in the way of CPC funds can be used compared to the appraised value of the land as compared to the offering price. That will have to be worked out. We'll be able to discuss that a little more at our meeting in early March. But I think, you know, because of the amount of money in the open space set aside and the likely amount that will be appropriated and the commitments we already have in the past made for other purchases of land, I think it's quite likely that we might end up having to bond a certain portion of it. And then one of the ways around that is obviously to commit future allocations into CPC, right directed to the bonding, which we've done with Piper Road property, Moritz property, Wright Hill. We're paying off a number of those right now. Okay. So there is a funding mechanism, but it's a question of choices.
Okay, and so thank you for that. So I guess instead of the follow-up here says, do you think if there's, you know, there's so much support for it here, and we'd like to know if there's anything that the select board feels would be a, you know, some kind of impediment or difficulty that we as a community who want to support this should be trying to pursue now. We've got 120 days since the time that was purchase and sale was agreement was signed, I think. So we're just trying to figure out I'd hate to be in a situation where there's you know, overall support for it, but then we're not fast enough to respond to, you know, get over whatever hurdle there is. Is there anything that you can think of?
Well, I think we're still in the early days on this process. So again, I'd point you towards that our first select board meeting in March. I think we'll have a little more understanding of some of the technicalities involved in this purchase. And we can probably speak with a little more understanding at that point. Right now, we really just wanted to hear from the community, and then we start working on the logistics.
Okay, thank you very much.
Hi, Kimberly Hurwitz, 1 Minot Ave. I'm his better half. We've been here for 27 years. I did not expect to say anything tonight, but just listening to everybody here, and our property sort of backs up onto a trail that connects to the Arboretum. We're at the far end of Minot off of Concord Road. I'm a nature geek, but one of the things that I realized hearing everybody is this is our town green. The Arboretum, we have a town green. It's over on Nagog Hill Road, but there's really no parking there. People don't use it the way they use the Arboretum. The Arboretum is this place in the center of town where we all kind of come together. And for different purposes. Kids have their prom pictures taken there. And obviously there's weddings, and school kids go and have picnics. And it's used for a variety of town purposes. So to add to that space while we can, when we can, seems a no-brainer to me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Laban Eilers, 64 Wood Lane. I'm rapidly approaching the age when my kids are going to go off to college, and I'm reminded that the Arboretum, much like the last speaker mentioned, has been a place where I've met a number of people who've become really close friends over the years, and it really does function as a community for people who aren't finding their friends through kids' soccer games and things like that anymore. And I think we shouldn't undervalue the amount of benefit it brings to a community where we want to make people of advancing age feel more comfortable and have places to socialize and be friends as well.
Thank you. I believe we have at least 5 people waiting to contribute online. David, do you want to start letting some of them in? Yep. Wait a minute. Got.
Wait, okay.
Go ahead.
Hi. My daughter, Sonia, wanted to come with me tonight, and she is very nervous, so she wants me to read her submission. So Renee, 26 Taylor. I love the Arboretum because I like watching the animals and birds. I like to play with my friends and have picnics with them. Ways to keep nature safe. Do not disturb animal habitats. Do not litter. Keep all the trees for fresh air and leave it how it is. These are some things that they learn in school about our environment, and she wanted to share that with you tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Said it very well. David.
Gil, you can unmute and speak.
Oh, thank you. Gil Watt, Old Barn Way in Acton. I too have been here for about 33 years, and I know, well, I'm just coming up to speed on this, but I am a little confused by some of the discussion that's gone on. At one point, I thought we were discussing raising the Arboretum and putting in an Amazon warehouse. So I'm not quite sure the connection between 46 Taylor Road and the Arboretum. I don't think anyone's proposing to destroy the Arboretum. And so I'm a little confused by how it's being presented by the commenters. But the other question I have is when I see this survey, it looks like the majority of this property is wetlands that is unbuildable. And only the portion close to Taylor Road is actually buildable by wetlands regulation. And I might be wrong about this. But if the only buildable section is close to Taylor Road, then that property, the buildable part, looks exactly like all the other houses that contain where all the abutters live. And so it would just be one more house full of children and families who would really enjoy the Arboretum and enjoy Acton. And so I'm not quite sure how having more children enjoy the Arboretum and more families with whom we can interact is a threat to Acton. But anyway, that's what I'm observing. And thank you.
Thank you.
John, you can unmute and talk.
Great, thank you very much. And thanks to everyone for the great discussion and opportunity tonight. So my name is John Barry. I live at 430 Main Street with my wife, 2 young kids, and our dog. I really just want to echo the sentiments of everyone who spoke earlier in support of efforts to conserve the Arboretum and potentially increase, our ability to use it. We just feel it's an incredible resource. It's a unique resource. We use it daily with our kids, with our dogs. It's a way for us to connect to the community, connect to nature. And we're just so grateful that this is a part of Acton. This was a big reason for us to move to Acton when we did. And so really just agree with a lot of the sentiments that were shared earlier by those that are in favor of conserving efforts to conserve the Arboretum. So thank you for the opportunity, and have a good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Laura, you can unmute and speak.
Great, thank you. Hi, my name is Laura Lopresti.
Sorry, Laura, could you start again?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm not sure where I cut off, so I'll just say I'm an Acton resident here, living right across from the Arboretum. And my family and I love spending time in the Arboretum for all the reasons you've heard here tonight, but I wanted to just focus a quick comment on the ecological importance and benefits of wetlands specifically. I took a course titled Wetlands, very exciting, and remember the textbook describing them as kidneys of the landscape and as nature's supermarkets. The imagery sticks with me when I walk through the trails of the Arboretum, and I think of the ecological significance and wanted to highlight this incredible value that these lands provide to us here in Acton, and hope that we can take this opportunity to preserve and conserve these lands, these sort of additional parcel of lands, very clearly from, separate from our existing Arboretum that we all love so much. And I thought I had 30 seconds, so I'll just take one more minute just to echo some of the things I heard here tonight. And Sarah mentioned her kids calling it the backwoods. My kids call it the deep woods. And nothing gets my kids away from screen time faster than an offer to go walking in the deep woods. They really just love that so much. And somebody else mentioned the Pine Grove, which is a favorite spot of mine as well. And a few years ago, I'm sure most of you on this call remember that microburst that came through and took down a number of the large pine trees. And I bring my kids there and I show them the new undergrowth below the trees and how the hollowed out trees are creating new habitats. And I think it's one of nature's great lessons in showing how destruction can bring new growth and new life. And through this conversation tonight, I'm also just struck by the generosity of Mary in giving of her time and her energy and of her land to this town. And I think that it would be such a gift to her legacy to purchase this land and take this opportunity to do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Catherine, you can unmute and speak.
Hi, my name's Catherine. I live on Trillium Circle and I grew up on 9 Taylor Road. I honestly wasn't planning on speaking tonight, but just gonna kind of wing it. So I grew up on 9 Taylor Road across from the Arboretum. And my sister and I, we called it our extended front yard, and it was just the most beautiful, magical place to grow up nearby. I remember, going there as a little kid. We would go, bring our sleds. We'd go for walks. My mother would quiz us on the names of the different plants and flowers, and she still does. And now that I have my own daughter, who I'm home rocking to sleep right now, I am so excited to be able to bring her to the Arboretum so that she can have some of the same experience I did. And I think that the town purchasing Dr. Donald's land in order to grow the Arboretum would be just the most beautiful thing that we could do for our town. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all, Mr. Chair.
Okay, if anybody else has any comments, if not, we think please come forward.
Thank you. I'll be fast. My name is Pam Curran. I live on Taylor Road, and I agree with everything that everybody has said. But I've been thinking about what you asked us in the beginning as to whether we would go to town meeting to help support a 2/3 vote, and I just wanted to say, yes, I would, and I'm sure Renee will organize us all. But you also asked how we would explain to the town, like, what is the value of this? Why is it worth spending this amount of money for the Arboretum? And I believe that the Arboretum is a destination place. I think of it almost like the Discovery Museum. People come from all over to go to the Discovery Museum, and then they go out to lunch or out to dinner. And I think that people do the same for the Arboretum. I think it's a draw to our community. I think it brings money into our town from the people who come to visit it. So anyway, I also support purchasing the land if we can. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, any final comments from my colleagues? Town manager, yep.
Just to note that with the plan to continue the discussion on March 2nd, we think it makes sense for you to also continue the public hearing just as a formality.
Lisa, would you have a time we should continue the public hearing to on March 2nd?
Do you want to just say 7:30? I mean, nothing's going to be scheduled at that time.
I move to continue this hearing till 7 o'clock on March 2nd in this room.
I second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Okay. So we will continue this on March 2nd, 7 o'clock. I'm looking for one more motion.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
Moved and seconded to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you. Thank you for coming out, everyone.